back to another Tuesday Tips at 2 with the Goldbergs. You see that prop? We're going to talk about construction in your house, in your business that you may be paying for, and some practical tips on how to get it right. I work with a ton of contractors, subcontractors, vendors, etc. I have a great amount of experience with construction litigation, and I also represent regularly project owners, whether commercial or residential, that are suing when things go wrong. So, shall we get started? Yes, right now there's a construction boom going on, and thank God for it. It means that there's money and money to be spent. People are buying up these services left and right, and you're seeing the cost of both the services and the supply spiking. What happens when there's a ton of demand and not enough supply? Prices go up, and then efforts to get more supply come online. And what does that result in? Contractors being inattentive to the projects that they have. Contractors underbidding the cost of the actual project. Subcontractors finding guys off the street in Home Depot parking lots to help them out. All the more important that you protect yourself and your major investment. How to do that? We're going to first thing first in the pre-project preparation. That's an alliteration. Go get yourself solid plans. Architect, engineer, interior designer, I don't know what the project is and what it calls for, but get something good that is approved and ready to rock and roll. If you need HOA approval, go get it done. If you need city permitting, sure, why not? Next up, get yourself solid referrals and do the vetting. Go make sure that this contractor that you're about to engage with on a very important project in your life is someone who has a track record of success, who does things right, who doesn't rip off clients, who doesn't take your money and disappear from state. For example, if you need guidance on how to vet it out, talk to previous customers, you can do background searches, you can even talk to a lawyer, seeing whether or not the guy's been previously sued, how often, for what. Moving on here, a good contract is absolutely critical. Don't just accept the template that the contractor, who's not always a guy, despite the name, that knows how to draft up contracts, hands you. You want to make sure that the terms of payment are very clear. You want to make sure that progress is defined by certain metrics, if at all. You want to make sure that there's a timeline affixed to it, and perhaps ramifications if the timeline isn't met. Critically on over there, you need the scope of work to be defined. It can be something as simple as see the attached blueprints or architectural plans, and then that's the scope. It can be like that. If not, then it should be better defined. Moving on. Mid-project. Continue with pen and paper. First thing first, maintain oversight. It doesn't need to be over the top and obsessive. You don't need to be there at all points in time, but maybe stop on by once a day, once every other day. Send somebody else on in. Take photos. Take photos when things are going right, and take photos when things are going wrong. Do not make the guy feel like you are looking over his shoulder, looking for problems, but just letting your contractors and subcontractors know that this is not a ghost project, but that it has an owner that is very much vested. That's very helpful. Next up, memorialize all communications. Let's say that you have a conversation with a contractor and he says, here's the update and here's the plan and here's the timeline. Great, fantastic. Send a follow-up email where you repeat those very points and just say, if I got this wrong, if I misheard you, please correct. That is very helpful. Text messages, I get it, and they're so helpful. It's just that they're incredibly disorganized and they're all over the place, and it's really difficult to make sense out of 500 text messages when it comes down to trial. So I'm advocate of email. It doesn't have to be email, but just one solid platform there. Next up, change orders. A change order is when you request a change, which requires a new order to be made, thus changing up the contract. It is not because the contractor underbid and lumber prices just shot through the roof. What do you want from me? You're going to have to pay for it. That's not a change order. A change order is when a change is necessary because you requested it or for some other factor that is not the contractor's fault. Read into that perhaps the architect screwed up or there was some underlying fact that could not have been known, etc. Those are critical things, differentiations for you to know. Once a change order is necessitated and you know that it's fair to the contractor, then memorialize that. 1-page addendum to the contract, a template, an email, a handwritten note signed by both parties defining what the additional cost is, what the additional timeline is, what you're getting for the money. Basic facts. It's just a new addendum to the contract. Nothing fancy about it has to be done. Next up, pay on time. Don't expect the contractor to do his job in timely fashion when you are holding back payments on him for whatever reason. Stick to the terms of the contract that are your obligations just as much as you expect the other guy to do the same. And then finally on over here, don't get desperate, okay? There might come a time when the contractor is pulling up the stakes saying you have to agree to this change order, which you know in your heart is not really a change order, or something else goes wrong, or the guy is stalling or is asking for way too much money that the contract doesn't call for, and it's not necessarily based upon his own productivity there at the project. If you agree to those terms that are different than the contract and you continue to pay, or you go along with what the guy wants of you, even though you know that it's wrong, you cannot then come to me later complaining, oh, that was unfair, can you go retrieve that money? You waived your contractual rights that you could assert. I know it's tough, sometimes you got a project, you got to get it done in time. I understand all of that. Just know, if you stick to the terms of the contract and that guy screws up, the contractor doesn't abide by them, that makes for a good lawsuit, which I can't help out with. If you bend to the terms and the demands of the contractor that are outside the scope of the contract, not defined in there, that's on you. I can't help out. Until next week, we will see you again for another Tuesday Tips at 2 with the Goldbergs. Bye.